Hi, my name is Liz Hathaway and this is my astrological look at the week ahead, and that is the week starting the 23rd of March 2020. I just want to reflect back on the ingress of Saturn into Aquarius, which was yesterday. Just a few general thoughts. Firstly, I think when we think about Saturn, what we're thinking about is always what is known. It's the limit of the known world in a way. And with Saturn in Capricorn, it's all really been about the material world, about material reality. Now Saturn is moving into Aquarius. This is an air sign. This is a sign as well. It's a diurnal sign and a diurnal planet. So Saturn is very, very much at home in Aquarius. Whereas Saturn is very, certainly with Pluto there as well, it's very much about, there's a kind of intensity with Saturn, Pluto, Capricorn. There's a sort of innerness to it, an inwardness to it. And it's when it gets into Aquarius, we move much more into the idea of the collective. We start to think, for example, of collective laws that govern all of us. I also think of things like the hive mind, think in terms of science fiction, group consciousness. And of course with Aquarius also being the sign that we tend to equate with as well, the web and modern forms of communication. It's really interesting that for many people, the internet is a sort of lifeblood at the moment. It's a means to connect with others. So kind of themes we think of with Saturn, as I say, it's what can be known, but also what we're afraid of. This is very much Saturn, isn't it? What our deepest fears are. And if we want to know about someone's insecurities, a client, if we look at where Saturn is placed in the chart and the kind of aspects it's making, this, the house placement and things, this gives us a lot of information on the insecurities and the fears that someone has. And if we're thinking about now more generally, we could say this is general karma, this is collective karma. So yeah, Aquarius, I say, the waving lines, like the ankles, there is a separateness with those two lines. And if we think about Aquarius, it's very much about the group. But on the other hand, Aquarians as well, they're extremely individualistic. And, the sun is in its detriment here, of course. So there's a kind of a denial of authority. So like I said, Saturn in Aquarius, what we're seeing now here as well is what rules will society have to take if the general public does not follow the advice it's been given. For example, like here in the Netherlands, parks have been still full, the beaches have been full, the boulevards, at the beaches and things. So, what's the next step? And we know when we get into 21, we get Saturn square Aquarius. So if the rules of society become too draconic, and there's always that risk with Saturn in Aquarius of going too far with that. I mean, if we look at the horoscope for the Third Reich, for example, which has Saturn in Aquarius, it's a fixed sign, so it can be very top down as well. It can be like one, that pinnacle, one person at the top that we all have to obey. So yeah, when Saturn squares Uranus in 2021, for example, 3 times, you kind of wonder are we having a little tryout? How are people in this age where we've all become our own experts if you like, authority has been very much undermined, I think, by the web, because, whereas in the past you went to a doctor and you relied on his advice to you, now you can go online and look it up for yourself. So authority has been tarnished in some ways. And yeah, what happens if people, as I say, do not listen, do not obey? So there's some interesting themes coming up here, certainly as well with the idea of Pluto moving into Aquarius as well. This idea of the hive mind, for example. Anyway, this is a theme that is of great interest to me. I published a chapter in the ebook that the Cosmic Intelligence Agency published this year, astrovision into the 2020s and beyond, where I look at the work of science fiction writer Philip K. Dick, whose work is behind like blockbusters like Blade Runner and Minority Report. So this idea of the hive mind, the groupthink, these are all things that are really interesting as we move more and more into Aquarius. Don't forget, we've got Jupiter Saturn conjunct in Aquarius in December on the solstice this year. So yeah, Jupiter, Pluto, Mars in the picture at the ingress, Saturn ingress, everything contained within the trine of Jupiter and Venus. So that's a bundle there. That's very intense. We're missing out on 240 degrees of the, and a lot of people feel like that. I'm missing out. I can't go out. I can't do anything. Everything's stopped, there is that sense. But Jupiter conjunct Pluto, which we're having 3 times this year, really is about growth through inner resourcefulness. What can we find in ourselves to sustain us? What lessons can we learn through being and spending time with ourselves in a way? But yeah, some interesting energy going on. As in the big test, I think, for Saturn in Aquarius at this very early stage is what to do if society doesn't listen to the advice it's given. So we're coming into new moon. The day before the new moon, we see Mars conjunct Pluto. And then after that, Mars is freed up a bit. It's sort of moving as well towards Aquarius, where it will make that square to Uranus. So we should watch that when Mars gets into Aquarius, and I'll be talking about that, I'm sure, in a week or so. But anyway, we've got a new moon in Aries. Mars ruled this week on Tuesday. That's really again, it's still picking up on Mars ruling it. We've got Jupiter and Pluto trying to Venus actually on Saturday and Sunday in the weekend. So Venus is coming in there between Jupiter Pluto. So I think one of the big themes for us, one of the big how shall I say, one of the great gifts of this time, the learning curve for many of us in this time, is to rediscover ourselves, to rediscover how we can nurture ourselves, how we can feed ourselves. There's in any adversity, there is always something to be gained from it. Certainly in Jupiter conjunct Pluto in Capricorn times. Talking of which, if you're Dutch and you're listening to this, on the 5th of April, we are doing Faye Blake Cossa and I are doing a webinar in Dutch. So that's on the 5th of April. I shall put a link underneath the vlog. Okay, thank you for listening. Have a great week and be sensible in all things. Speak to you later. Bye.